You feeling good? All right. I want to do a quick shout out to some of the people I spoke to yesterday at the workshop. I'm so glad to be your first keynote at Industry this morning. Thank you to Industry, MTP, Pendo. Can we make it interactive this morning? Can we do that? Can I get a clap so I can confirm that? All right, my good friend Melissa Perry wrote a book called The Bill Trap. Has anyone ever read that book? Show of hands. All right. My talk is a play on that because we are about to go into all kinds of different problems in the age of AI with how we build. So here we go. First of all, an introduction. I'm Oji Udezue. Mike said some really good words about me. I'm a veteran of these companies that you see on stage. I was Chief Product Officer at Typeform and at Calendly, Head of Product at Atlassian. And I ran tweets and the conversations team at Twitter pre-Elon, just before he came in. These days, I'm a partner at Product Mind, which our mission is essentially to help product people and builders build even better products, the right products. We've been doing that for years because we try to help people with product strategy, product education, especially with AI coming on. And these days, I'm a general partner as well in a venture studio called Phalanx Ventures. In the last 3 years, I've been hard at work building AI native products. AI at the core is what we called it. And we are realizing that we are in a period of really, really great change. My partners and I have decided that we'll be a part of solving the problem and rewriting how people build over the next decade. And the 3-speed trap is one of the first things we want to call your attention to. Now, I'm going to talk about this. If you don't recognize your company, because many companies are at different stages, it's fine. But I can assure you that some of these problems will catch up to you, so it's a good idea to understand how to deal with them. So, the subtitle of the talk is about a CEO shipping code and basically bypassing you, right? And this is actually quite hilarious, right? I do a lot of time on Reddit, and one day in the product management channel, I saw a panic post of a PM basically saying that his CEO had vibe coded a feature, hung out with a CRO, and they had put up a page, and they said pre-selling the product, and they bypassed everyone, right? Now, obviously, there are many problems with this, right? Not the least of which is a need for a corporate therapist, right? For the product team and the CEO, right? But this lack of trust and inflexibility in the product system is causing chaos in places already, and it's going to continue to cause chaos. Because when the tools to build and to write code are available to everybody, not just developers, and that speed of development is speeding up so tremendously, you are going to have some problems. Now, the truth is, coding languages are becoming passé, right? Writing code is just speaking any language, English, Telugu, Igbo, whatever it is, and some logic, right? If you have architectural skill, your actual language doesn't change anything. Now, the architectural skill is important, which is different from vibe coding because not everybody can build an Empire State Building. Maybe you can build a garden shed. So that part is really, really important. But the problem remains, what do you do when your CEO says that you're too slow and starts to vibe code features? What do you do? Well, this gets to the thing that I'm trying to talk about, right? This is the issue. This is the 3-speed problem. Building is going to speed up by 10x as people use augmented content generation, which is code. But the other 2 sides of building won't speed up as fast. And the reason is super simple. It doesn't depend on just us. The first problem, which is listening and discover customer science, depends on customers, and they live outside your organization for the most part. And of course, go-to-market also depends on customers, some of them that you don't have, right? And so that's the issue. Every product practice that you go through is constructed around the bottleneck resource of engineering. Now, are there PMs here? These are PMs here, right? Are your engineers paid more than you generally? right? At least that's what PMs feel. And it's true. There's some engineers in the Valley now working for foundational model companies that are being paid $20 million a year, right? Because this is the bottleneck resource for the last 20 years of building. So let's zoom out a little bit to first principles. Product managers, we are meant to match customer satisfaction and love with business value. That's what we do. And to do this, we master the skill of customer, which is the first part, doing that well so that we can direct the development organization. And then we have to communicate and translate all of this to engineers, to product teams, and to our product leadership. And on the backside of that, we have to get our stuff shipped to customers, right? This is what we do. What happens when this compact changes completely, right? What happens when the middle is no longer the bottleneck? So the first thing to note is that, if we operate as we have, if we change nothing, we will have gridlock, right? Let me give you an example, just a little bit of story time. I spoke at South by Southwest in Austin this year, and I ran into an augmented staffing company, an engineering company in Eastern Europe, and they told me that if they get a call from a customer that says, hey, build this for me, 4 hours later, they have a prototype ready for that customer because of new AI tools. This is really, really fast. And it's not just throwaway code. This is code that they can evolve linearly because it's built in the same language, the same platform that they would use to deliver a finished product. So the 3-speed problem, if we change nothing, will have us shipping a lot of useless features because people in that organization, the people are coding ahead of product management, right? And they can build stuff just because they can, right? And if you build stuff that people don't use, eventually you leave the code lying around, which is a problem. It'll also mean that there'll be organizational conflict, right? I have written more code in the last year as a PM, even though, people say, this is where you are in your career. In the last year, I've written more code than I have in the last 10 years because I'm transitioning my PRD writing to prototype writing, which I'll talk about in a bit. So there's going to be organizational conflict because the tools are going to let people do more things within the build process. Your designers can code, you can code, your engineers can code, maybe code faster than you and do all the CI/CD stuff. So there's going to be conflict. And people will try to get around the slow process of old operations. That's what they will try to do. Now, and we won't know how to sell everything. If there's a torrent of new features, a torrent of new stuff that's unvalidated, that people don't know what they are, the thing that happens today, which is your customers sometimes can't discover the thing you just shipped yesterday, right? And they can't discover the thing you ship next quarter, will start to compound all these things. Now, by the way, if AI is not creating confusion in your workplace already, if these tools aren't creating a little bit of tension in your workspace, in your workplace, you are probably behind the curve, right? You're not harnessing it enough already. And this is a red flag, right? It should be creating a little bit of tension as you adopt it today. The best PMs will realize this situation and they will set about to re-architect the product system, the product operations. And we won't tinker around the edges, and I'm hoping these are the best PMs in the world right here in front of me. We will change everything, and I'll talk about how the ways that you can change it. Your company is due for a product operations overhaul anyway. And if you drive it, you become more valuable to your company. So let's talk about the 3 areas that we want to change that are connected to the 3 speeds. The way to optimize the 3-speed problem is to change the resistance and impedance, to change how this thing flows, because what's happening is that the flow is wrong. It's wrong from all the things that we've made assumptions about, right? So we want to maximize A and C, right? Essentially the slow parts. And then we want to change how B works. That's what we're going to do. So let's talk about it. The first thing that you can do, the thing that we keep begging PMs to do really better and well, is to accelerate customer listening. Now, I'm going to talk about customer science, which I split between customer listening and customer discovery. Customer listening is slightly different from customer discovery because if you listen to the last keynote 2 years ago that Azina and I, my partner, Azina, do you want to do a shout out here? Oh, cool. My partner we did a keynote here 2 years ago, and we talked about customer listening and how it's different. Now, at the front end of most of your work, for most PMs, at least senior PMs and above, is customer feedback. So what we need to do is to make customer feedback so turnkey that we are drowning in not only customer feedback, but synthesis about how that feedback works, what it's about. So step one is very simple. And by the way, there are a few companies here that already do this. There's Jira Product Discovery here. I think that Atlassian is here. But there are a few more. There's Chisel AI, Insight 7. I don't get anything from these companies by mentioning them on stage at this moment. But these are tools that will help you turn customer listening into a science, into something that's just completely turnkey, press a button. Step one is take all your feedback channels. Usually 10 we talk about. Everything from churn to NPS, to bugs, to community insights, to sales feedback, to account management feedback, to customer support. Put them in one giant bucket by channel and together so that you can ask intelligent questions. So that's step two. You feed it into a system that can look at this stuff, clean it up, and synthesize. And step 2A is really asking smart questions about this data. Now, some of the questions you can ask of data that you consolidate like this can be actually really very sophisticated. You can ask things like, okay, what can we do to make customers happier with our existing features? If you're a growth team, you can ask questions like, what are the opportunities for driving more retention, more activation? If you have enough data, you can create a system using an LLM to figure this stuff out so you don't have to spend the hours for it. Step 3, by the way, is advanced. In the best PM companies, what people are doing, they're connecting this expert system to Jira, to your code base, and to your ticketing system. And you can make this system not only file tickets for you, right, based on the top 10 things that can optimize growth and activation or whatever it is. You can make it write your PRDs, right? And in certain cases, you can use cursor code or whatever you use, GitHub Copilot, to write the PR that checks in the code. Now, you don't have to check it in, right? LLMs aren't that good yet. But you can get these PRs off to dev to get them started off a blank sheet of paper. So this is how you speed up customer listening. Now, the next one is discovery pace. This is about the second part of customer science, which is customer discovery. Discovery is usually tuned to whole new things, new value propositions. It's staying with a customer, studying them, looking at what they do, not just what they say. It's applying judgments to what they don't say, right? And discerning what's painful, what's a sharp problem still for them, right? That's what we think about as customer discovery. Discovery, like I said, is useful when you're building new things. And what you can do is to make discovery on tap. Now, a few things, I think people struggle with this one, but I'll tell you a few things that we try to do. You can watch users, you can connect them to session watching. These tools like FullStory and LogRocket are becoming so turnkey. They watch your customer so you don't have to. They distill what's difficult about the customer session. They filter it for the top 10. And some of them can actually go as far as writing a PRD for you. So you need to start finding those tools. So a few other tips in speeding up customer discovery is community-powered discovery. One of the things I did at Twitter when I ran conversations was I built like 5 communities that corresponded to my target customer for new products I built. And those people just sat around. Every time I was curious, I just went to them on Discord or Slack, and I said, hey, how about this thing? What do you think about this stuff? And it made customer discovery so much easier. The other thing, and cheat code, is AI-powered research. Very recently, I was doing pricing for a product, and I took the research mode of GPT, and I asked it to survey the market space. I asked it to figure out all the different pricing structures and to recommend some pricing structures. Now, this is the first time I'd ever done that. I used to spend $1 million on Simon Kucher to do pricing in every company I've ever been. I took that pricing report that he did, and I sent it to a very fancy consultant friend of mine who works for Bain Consulting, high dollar stuff. And I asked him to look at it, and he said it was pretty good. You can do a lot by using the research functions, because these LLMs, they know a lot about the internet. You shouldn't probably trust them completely. You should always check. But you can do a lot in terms of customer research, customer intent. There's a different kind of intent questions you can ask when you're doing customer research, which is, what does this behavior mean for customer intent? You can ask some of those questions. Now, continuous feedback farming is sort of what this is about, which is embed discovery in everything. Sometimes when I launch a new experimental feature, I'll put a little feedback button on the feature, not just in the entire product. You should do those kinds of things so you constantly understand what customers think. The middle part is probably where we need to think different. So for the first part, we want to speed it up, customer science. The middle part, we have to think different, right? Remember the story I told you about the oil company that can create a prototype in 4 hours straight. If your engineers speed up, first, you have to not slow them down. We have to keep pace. But the way to do that, and the thing that you can't put your foot off the pedal, is keep them pointed in the right direction. This is our job. This is the one imperative. Now, how you do that is you speed up the first part like I talked about, and then tools, tools, tools. You need to figure out how to use Cursor, how to use all the dev tools. One of the most important things is you have to figure out how to move to code faster. Now, let me tell you, after 25 years of being a PM, here's the way it goes. You get a new idea, new discovery insight, new feedback insight. You write a document, PRD, you do design, and eventually it becomes code. 2 weeks into the sprint, the code becomes the Bible. It becomes the truth. Everything fed into the code, right? And the code becomes the truth all the way to the end, to ship, correct? Is everyone following me? Everyone seeing this? Well, you need to figure out how to get to code faster. I told you I've written more code in the last year than ever before. And the reason is, here's how I do it now when I'm working with Phalanx Ventures, is if we have something to explain to developers, to engineers, I write the prototype. I write the API calls, and then I annotate it. Because there's a lot of user behavior that's dynamic. So code isn't enough sometimes. So I annotate it. So my PRD has become code and annotations. 5 years ago, it was a document with pictures, okay? We need to get to code much faster. Now, this is probably the most important thing, but I'll talk about other ways you can use and change the middle part. If you have excess engineering capacity, one thing you can use it on is fit and finish. Everyone here has done a UX sprint. Make it prettier before we ship. Stop doing that. Do that earlier, okay? Use the engineering capacity for that because it's so easy to do. More ambition, okay? Again, these session tracking tools used to just track sessions, and then you log in and you watch user sessions, 100, 1,000, who knows how much you do. No one actually used them because there are too many sessions, and the signal to noise ratio was terrible, right? But now, in my partnership with some companies, I consulted with Full Story and LogRocket. They don't need you to do that. They will watch the sessions, call them, and show you the top 10, right? This is what I wanted 10 years ago, but they're doing it now because they're more ambitious. And eventually, these features will simply check in code because they'll understand exactly what your customers are doing wrong or what you're doing wrong on behalf of your customers. So these companies, that's more ambition. They are taking a workflow they did a little bit, and they're playing it all the way to the end where the code is. You need to do the same thing. Use excess engineering capacity for more ambition, to solve more problems for your customer. The other way you can use engineering capacity is to kill tech debt. How many times have we said, oh, tech debt, tech debt, tech debt? Well, listen, start a new code base that's AI at the core. Or spend less time, more velocity, erasing the tech debt in your organization. This is important. The last thing you can do with more engineering capacity is experiment more profusely. Do more experiments. And the problem with experiments sometimes is if you put it out there, you don't get enough data to get to statistical analysis, so it's still slow because there are not enough customers adopting it. Well, listen, that shouldn't stop you. Sometimes you can put, with Launch Darkly and all these feature flags, you can put out even more features and see what wins. You can just let them run for a while. There's a way to do this, and if you don't know how to do it, you can come talk to me after. Now, I wish I had a dime for every time I've heard a PM say, I want to be closer to the business. Have you ever said that? I want to be closer to the business. Well, listen, the way to be closer to the business is to get involved in go-to-market. Here's a little bit of story time. I left Microsoft in 2012, and I've been a PM for a decade, worked on Windows, worked on Exchange, worked on Internet Explorer, Microsoft Office, a whole bunch of features. But at the tail end of Bauma's time there, I felt that we were shipping amazing things and the marketing sucked, right? I just felt we weren't telling good story. I don't know if I was right or wrong, but that's what I thought about it. And so I went over to be a marketing and sales enablement lead for 2 years before I left Microsoft. Now, this taught me valuable lessons, gave me language that I don't have that helps me when I talk to CEOs and to boards. So if the middle is contested, I want PMs, because you see everything, you see the inception, you see the ship, start to break into those places. We need to spend more time on the edges anyway, okay? So what I'm trying to say is get into GTM. Help craft the marketing message. Help the salespeople sell your product. This is very important. Your job doesn't stop when you ship. Your job stops when customers are happy, when it's in their hands and they love it. If you're part of GTM, your ability to get feedback into the product process is increased. In fact, you can start defining what I call market-ready requirements for your customers. And the reason I say all this stuff is, as the 3 speeds change, you have opportunity. You have places to shift your time and attention to become valuable to your business. Okay, what else? This is the core of my message, but I have a few bonus things to talk to you about. The nature of the team that you are part of is changing dramatically. At Product Mind, we talk about shipyard teams, and I'll explain that. And that's not so much in your control because you don't always construct teams, but I think you should know how teams, the best teams will work over the next decade. And it's number 2, we'll talk a little bit about the new PM skills you need to have. You ready? All right, let's do this. Now, the shipyard model is to say that the core triad is no longer just a triad, it's a sextet. The skills you need are product management, engineering, and design. But if you think hard about it, you need user research. You need data and ML and LLM and prompt engineering, all that stuff. You need product marketing. Now, product marketing is not all of marketing, but it's the storytelling. Because how can you tell a story if you don't know where it started from, the customer insight? These are the people we consider the core, the 6 skills required to be in the shipyard. Now, this doesn't sometimes mean 6 different people collaborating on a feature. And the point of the shipyard is autonomy. If you can get your organization to put these 6 skills together, give them really clear goals and metrics to go after, and a mandate for autonomy, you are going to go very far. This is how startups work in the Valley all the time, because they're constantly collaborating. At Typeform, when we built Formless, we created what we called a heist team, an R&D team. We didn't look at the old code base. We built Formless from a different code base. One of the people in that heist team was actually the former CEO and the co-founder of Typeform. But it needed people like him and me to figure this stuff out. And so we had him, and he was basically a PM and a designer and a coder. We had a coder who was a full stack engineer who did engineering, but also a lot of the user experience. We had a backend engineer who did most of the backend coding. And you had me. I did all the user research. I did all the GTM for this. So 6 skills, 4 people, and that was a full shipyard team. We were mandated to figure this new thing out for Typhoon. So a few things to note. Clear goals and metrics are important for a shipyard team so they can go after it by any means necessary. You need to think about a complete skill set, right? And you need to matrix in customer teams. We spent a lot of time with sales. We spent a lot of time with the rest of marketing. We spent a lot of time with account management. Those were our skin. We felt the customer through them, and so we brought them in and we collaborated with them all the time. I am drawing a direct contrast between this and the triad, engineering, PM, design, who builds something, hand it off to marketing, that hands it off to sales, blah, 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 okay? In 2025, for the next decade, the best teams will be the who create fully skilled people who can go after everything from thinking to shipping, meaning inside customers' hands. We can't say enough about the shipyard team, super important. The next thing is to talk about your skills, right? If you want to solve the 3-speed problem properly, you have to do things differently. The first thing is to just advocate that the PM job is staying the same. The essence of it isn't changing, right? If you go back all the way, I had this argument with Ezine talking about how did the PM job start? Or really, our job is to prevent an engineering team from straying away from the customer, to straying towards the customer. If we do that, we justify our salaries every single day. We make the return on capital possible. So don't let anyone tell you that PM job is obsolete. It's not obsolete because someone still needs to do that and no one else is doing that. And then customer-centric building. You make sure they don't stray. You make sure they think about user experiences that people love. And then the last one is getting into the hands of the customer. So what are the skill sets you need for the 3-speed problem? Number one is the way you write PRDs are going to change. You're going to need to learn to code, learn to write API designs, learn to prototype a full demo application, and have that discussion so you can get to code faster. One of the emerging skill sets in the PM land is evals. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but anyone know what an eval is? Okay? All right, a few people know what an eval is. When most of your code is a model and is undeterministic, you need to be able to write high-level test cases, which are called evals, so that you can understand when the model is doing the right thing. Most of your work in the next 10 years will be writing evals as you use LLMs to create software. You need to know all of this stuff to do technical prototypes. You need to lead the introduction to new tools. These new tools are going to be introduced by you. You're going to be the arbiter that says this tool works for the entire team. You need to do that better. Velocity management. Sometimes you need to speed up development. Sometimes you need to slow it down, all to serve the customer better. You are the person who's doing that drumbeat, okay? You need to do real-time synthesis. Because it's faster, you're going to make decisions with less data, and you're going to be able to pause sometimes when you need data in order to keep people centered. And this is all on you. Community management. Customers have to be by your side. They have to be in your ear. They have to be in your little FBI dongle all the time. You have to figure out how to do that, whether it's through communities, whether it's through the feedback you put in your product. You need to become a master of managing communities of your customers. And of course, your OPM skills don't go anywhere, right? Leadership, communication, clarity, being able to talk up and down the chain, right? Running meetings so that they're very productive, constantly clearing the space so that everyone understands where they are in terms of goals. You need those skills still. Now, one of the things that I try to do is this is an exaggerated protocycle. And the reason I present this slide constantly is that most of us, including me, spend too much time on the center, on the build. We're always in the build. We're always in the build. We don't spend time at the edges. So think about this as a thought experiment for your day, your week as a product person. This is about how you should spend your time. So in an exaggerated fashion, you should have a feedback day where you are marinating in feedback. You should have an insight day where you're thinking about the needs of new functionality, new customer value, new workflows. You should have a building day where you are skipping the PRD, coding the thing that you were thinking about, that is the solution to the problem, right? Sketching it out in different ways. It's now easy, it's now fast. You need to sit with engineering. This isn't the ship code, obviously. No one is going to ship your code to customers. But you can sit with engineering and communicate that and the annotations to harden this. And day 5 is when you spend time with the people bringing this to your customers. Does that make sense? Are you with me? All right, so think about this. Think about distributing your time. How a PM spends their time, as I've found over many years, is by far the most important thing they can do in succeeding. If you're spending too much time on a tiny part of your job, and people are forcing you to do that and you're working only after the day is done, you're probably not going to succeed long term. I've had over 100,000 meetings, PM meetings in my time. And I haven't always done this right. So this is an important pet peeve of mine, so that you can distribute your time better for the next generation of building. Look, you can become the PM who moves faster than your CEO, right? We're going to make this slide available, and we can talk after. The CEO starts to code because they see stagnation and slowness amid emerging abundance. That's what makes them start to code. Your job isn't to gatekeep the CEO and to get upset, right? It's to reorchestrate the 3 speeds so that it works for your organization and that you can create new continuous value delivery that people can see and feel. When you master this, you don't just keep up with AI, you lead with it. Let me leave you with a challenge. Is that okay? By next Monday, I challenge you to map out how you will harness new speed when it becomes available, all right? I challenge you to run your first continuous discovery experiment with AI tools as part of it, yeah? Within 1 month, within this month, whatever, count 30 days, write your first prototype application. Do it. Don't just write a PRD, write your first prototype application, find a way, and annotate it. Hand it off to your developer and see if it doesn't go fast, see if it doesn't kill 3 or 4 or 5 meetings. By next month, 60 days from now, ship something, replace the CEO. Don't make him be the person who writes the code. You write it, right? And try and push it through in some kind of experiment. Be the person who says, screw it, I'm shipping it, not your CEO, because that's where you want to be, and that's what's going to get you the accolades you need. The tools are there. The question is, will you use it? So with this, I want to say thank you. This is my time. Follow me and Product Mind on Substack. Join our community of great PMs. We always try to upskill PMs where heart bleeds for product managers. We wrote a book called Building Rocket Ships that Mike talked about. I'll leave it up. I'll do a signing on the floor later. Thank you very much, everybody. Talk to you soon.